Uh,
Oh no. I'm a child. What can I say?
you can leave that in as a start. I don't care.
That's how we get no ad revenue because we said a naughty word in the first
Is
7 seconds.
penis enough to demonetize? Welcome back to Colors or Crutch. My name is Max Sturberg, also known as Wounded Sidelight, and I am joined by the best new co-host a man could ever ask for, Jordan Drake, who I did not properly introduce the last time we were here. So we're going to do that right now. Jordan Drake is a father, a husband, a friend, and to top it all off, a dope ass fucking Magic player. He's been grinding for a while. He's done well in a lot of events. His big claim to fame is definitely taken down the largest CDH tournament by players involved of all time, the Boil 2 on TNT. Back, what was that? 7 months ago, I want to say something in that range. 8 months
God, has
ago.
it been has it been
It
that long
it's
now?
been a while,
No, it was
but
November, right?
it
Yeah,
was
whatever.
November, so six-ish months ago. Something, yeah, like a little over half a year ago. But he's
Yeah.
he's an amazing person. He's been a friend of mine for a long time. We met a little bit over a year ago down in Florida at Salt Fest, and we've just been friends ever since. And I'm honored and happy to have him on the show. We've, ended up growing closer as friends. I went to your wedding a couple of months ago, and yeah, he's a
True.
dope ass dude. Anything you'd like to say about yourself? Introduce yourself to the people.
Yeah. Hey everyone. So been playing Magic since what is it, Commander Legends, which was like 3 years ago. So I haven't been playing Magic very long, but got into it really fast just because I had a lot of good friends that were kind of dragged me over from casual into CEDH, and then those are the same friends that I run the other channel with. And then from there, just kind of fell in love with CEDH. Started on Toxrill, moved over to Marnius, then Najila. Yes, I think that's the order. And then on Nib Mizzet for a while, and now mostly known for TNT. Did play TNK a little bit here and there. Um, just having some fun with it and enjoying the time here. And then thankful to Max to reach out and ask me to co-host with him. And after mulling it over for a bit, happy to do it. So excited to be here. And we had a good first show, I think. So hopefully we can carry the momentum forward.
Yeah, absolutely. You're not exactly on brand because you play four color decks, but I'll give you a little bit of slack.
I mean, I played a little bit of everything, right? I've played some two color. We played some three. Have we played three color? Yes, Marnius. Thank you.
Yeah, Marnius,
Five
absolutely.
color. I've played everything but mono colored.
One day you will learn that colors truly are a crutch. So
We go
here's the
colorless.
difference, resembled right
We go.
here. You you are wearing a three color jacket. I am wearing a two color sweatshirt.
Technically, white is the absence of color. So.
No, no, that's black.
Oh no, you're right. Damn it,
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
fucked up.
White is all of the colors together. Black is the absence of color, brother.
Dang it! I thought I was being clever too. Here I
Yeah, I know, it's crazy, right?
go.
I was about to jump into Final Fantasy, but let's start with a
Yeah.
little more casual conversation because I like that shit. How you doing today, bro? What's new with you?
uh, I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm just hanging out. Been a long work week. A lot of Magic playing this week. We got the yeah. This video will come up before. We've got the big Nashville tournament this weekend, the Black Lotus. So pretty excited for the MV.
And
Um,
you're playing in the actual invitational, right?
I am. Yeah, I did win one of the qualifiers.
Sick.
So because they were all basically here in the East Coast.
Yeah, I top forward the one I went to a few weeks ago, but I did not get the actual invitation to the Black Lotus event. But I will be going to the 10K Open, so you should absolutely come up and say hi to us if you see us over there. And that event looks
Dude,
like it's going to be dope. There's going to be a ton of side events going on and just so much to do.
yeah, I think this is gonna be a really fun weekend. Dude, you see the Open too? It is stacked. I think the Open is more stacked than the Invitational from what I was seeing.
It's
It's
got
like,
to, yeah. I looked through all the entries at one point. I was like, oh, this is absolutely the harder tournament. Like, this is ridiculous.
I saw some people were dropping out of the Envy to go to the Open. I was like, not me. I'm
Not the way to do
happy.
that. Nope.
I'm happy to go for the Lotus. I didn't. And what is it? An unlimited Lotus is worth like 20 grand,
Condition
something
matters
like
so
that.
much for those kind of cards.
It is a damaged one, unfortunately.
Okay. I have no idea what a damaged unlimited Lotus is. Probably like 10, 15, something like that.
And that's still really good.
We're here to talk about Final Fantasy. I think it might be the biggest set of all time in terms of how many different cards there are. I don't think I've ever seen this many different cards before or a spoiler season go this long. And we are aware that the spoiler season is not quite done as we are filming this. There's just already so many cards that we want to talk about that we're going to do this. And if we need to talk about some other cards in the future, we'll get there when we get there. But we're going to go through a bunch of the cards for today. The list we have, we're going to do in alphabetical order. And yeah, I mean, I'm excited to talk about it. There's a bunch of cards that we're going to bring up that are going to be pretty quick. It's really just, I think they might see play in one or two styles of decks. Some of them we're going to delve into a little more deeply. You'll know which cards they are when we get to them. Some of them are going to be pretty recognizable, and some of them you might have thought of yet, might not have thought of yet. So yeah, do
Yep.
you want to let them know what the first card we're talking about today is?
Yeah, so the first one we are going to start with is the potential commander Celes, the Rune Knight. Yeah, so Celes is a Mardu commander, 4 mana. It's the 3 Mardu and then a colorless. She says, legendary creature, human wizard knight. When she enters, you discard any number of cards and draw that many cards +1. And then whenever one or more creatures you control enter, if one or more of them entered from a graveyard or is cast from a graveyard, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. So what makes this commander really interesting is, for one, she's a wheel on a creature. So if you've got ways to flicker her, which of course she's in white, so there's a lot of flicker spells, then you can just keep kind of wheeling yourself and storming through your deck a little bit that way. What also makes her interesting is any persist creature goes infinite with her. And so that allows her to be both a engine in your command zone and an outlet. And I think that ticks like two of the big things that you look for in a CEDH commander.
Yeah, Celes is interesting. I think the wheel aspect of her is very value oriented and obviously opens up some reanimation style shenanigans
Yep.
that are pretty interesting. Um, I don't think that's the way to build her though. I don't think it's flicker her as many times as possible and just chain through your deck. That's cool, and it is card positive filtering, looting, wheeling, whatever you want to call it. It's not exactly a wheel because it is based on the number of cards in your hand. What is, I
Yeah.
think, significantly more interesting about her is the secondary ability, specifically because it goes infinite with persist and a sacrifice outlet. And what's
Right.
so powerful about that, I normally don't like, I think it's 4 piece combos right now where we're looking at you need a persist creature, you need a sacrifice creature, and you need a blood artist effect or a walking ballista style thing. Something that fills that role of the final piece of the combo in some regard, which you can make infinite mana with like Phyrexian Altar for walking ballista. Just some way of doing all of those things. What I think makes Celeste interesting though is those 4 piece or 3 piece combos when they're a commander in two very specific cards. I think those combos are very bad because it's just so much to put together and you need to tutor all these pieces or hope you get them. But with Celeste, she's not held down that way. There's an unbelievable amount of redundancy for every single stage of that combo. There's not even a single piece where it has to be this one. There's so many persist creatures that can do the job. There are so many sacrifice outlets that can do the job, and there are so many blood artist effects that can do the job. So I don't know what the correct density of those numbers are because there's literally too many options available to shove all of them in the deck. I think the deck wouldn't be able to function as a CDH deck if you built it with just every possible option of all of those. But there's definitely going to be a correct density of these that has to be figured out that I will put Celeste in a very viable position where it's, oh, I'm a Mardu Breach deck that has some value in the command zone and can still do all the generic turbo-y Mardu stuff or be really removal heavy Mardu I've seen in that almost control-y fashion, and then does just have this plethora and density of combo kill options available to it. I think this one does have the potential to have some legs. It's not something I immediately see as being a top tier, top 4 style deck, but it's something that I think can put up wins, take down some smaller events, and definitely, run correctly with the right people, especially those who are used to this type of color combination, especially in the more grindy control aspect. Someone who used to run a Tim Najeska style build, those are much more grind the game removal. I don't think this is going to be as all out Turbo Mardu as something like Dihada.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I think this deck is interesting. Have you played against like the Gev deck, the red black lizard? I think it's going to run very
Yeah,
similar to that deck. It's basically just a better version of that deck now. I think.
give up a color.
Yeah, yeah, and like because I think the white gives it a lot of really interesting pieces because you actually have some interaction now with like silence and reprieve and some other stuff you could put in there, and then you've got like I said, I think while I don't think you're gonna want to flicker through the deck, I think having some value pieces like the ephemerate, something that's like, okay, I'm here. You probably can run like Felia if you really want to. Just like, okay, I can if I want to. Like this is already a good value piece, and then I can just kind of bounce or flicker it and then come back on instep, wheel my hand out, dump through it, wheel it, and I'll have a fresh 7 going out of my turn. I think like there's some really interesting value plays with this card. I think I agree with you. I think she is going to be one that has legs for me. I think not as turbo slanted as Dahada, but I see a lot of potential with this commander, and I see a couple different ways you can really build her. And I think Mardu always tends to go really quick, no matter the build anyway. Like even if you aren't quite as Dahada turbo slanted, I think Celes is still gonna be a pretty quick deck. I don't know. I always find that the decks that are doing the persist trigger thing, they always seem to put them together really fast.
Yeah, because there's just that density of options. But that's why I
Yeah,
don't think you can lean into the like value style flicker effects is
that's fair.
let's imagine
That's
you
fair.
put in 3 options from each thing. That's a package of 9 cards that's devoted to the commander and that kind of strategy. There's
Mm-hmm.
so many good cards in Mardu between your breach package cards and your tutor package and your white removal and silence effects and all of these things you need to have, your red blast, your swats, everything that it's hard to add in too many commander centric cards. We'll have to figure out what that correct number is. There might be room for, I think an ephemerate might be the most reasonable one, just like a 1 mana instant over
Yeah.
something like Ophelia. It's something that will have to be ironed out in the details, but this is definitely one to look out for. Definitely one to build around if you're interested in this style of play and, see what the deck has to offer. Next up, we have another white card for you. It's going to be Champions from Beyond. I have not heard anyone talk about this card yet. I just saw it while scrolling through card options today, and I'm not sure how to feel about it. There's only one deck I really think it could see play in that comes to mind immediately, actually two. It is a X white enchantment that says when this enchantment enters, create X 1/1 colorless hero creature tokens. So just make a bunch of creature tokens. And then it has 2 abilities. One is called Light Party, which is whenever you attack with 4 or more creatures, scry 2, then draw a card. And then Full Party, whenever you attack with 8 or more creatures, those creatures get +4/+4 till end of turn. The 2 decks I can see this seeing play in are Elevere and Jetmir. 2 decks that Elevere cares about enchantment count, but realistically it just makes a bunch of creatures and beats face. But especially in the modern builds of Elevere that are really focused around their Calyx effects and people are on Ocelot Pride and lots of ways to make more of the role tokens. Having more creatures to put them on while putting another creature enchantment on the battlefield, especially because that deck tends to make a shitload of mana between Gaia's Cradle and Sarah's Sanctum and often not even be able to use it because of rule effects. I think this is a legitimate option for it. And then Jetmir, I mean, it's another pump spell on another massive token creation thing. It's a backup Jetmir by itself. This card seems phenomenal for that deck.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if there's any other deck that can actually find a way to see value from this card. I think it's cool. It's got some interesting stuff. I mean, if the tokens that enter one at a time, maybe you could just cite like a Marnius style deck. I'm just trying to think of like any other card that could run it. I guess like in a go wide dog thrash deck, maybe you could try something like this. I don't know. I don't think it's very efficient for what you're trying to do, though, and there's probably just better cards to do it. So
Yeah,
I
for
think I
purely
agree.
making tokens, there's more efficient ways. I'm sure there are other decks that will think about this, but I don't think it's a deck I care about.
Yeah, that's probably
Might
fair.
be the
That's
way of
probably
putting
fair.
it.
Yeah. we're gonna get comments, and it's gonna be some off the wall Naya deck that we're just like, oh yeah,
Good for them.
like Preston, right? Like Preston Garvey, the Fallout commander. I
Preston
think he
doesn't
does
give a shit
enchantment.
about this. There's no way.
I
There's
don't know,
no
man.
way,
I'm throwing
dude.
stuff at the wall here.
I don't know. It's a quick one. Get it. Let us know with the next card. We got so much to get through today.
All right, our next card is going to be Edgar, King of Figaro. And what's really interesting about this card, and I think the knee jerk is going to be to stick him into like a Karksaka deck because he does coin flips, Karksaka does coin flips, and I don't think that that's necessarily wrong. I do see some people do put Zitterspilt in the 99 of Karksaka, and this just might be a replacement for it. Maybe. I mean, they're around the same mana cost. Zitterspilt might just be a tad bit better, but the reliability of, hey, I really need this one card to go off, so I'm going to make sure that I do win this coin flip and I get kind of the interaction that I'm looking for out of it. I actually think that he's going to be better in a Usury deck because this basically just wins the game, right on the spot with Usury. You get your 5, you immediately win all 5, and then that's it. That's game. I think Usuri is already a deck that has seen some kind of mixed results here. You've seen some people play it and not do so well, but then there was one I think that topped a big tournament recently. Um, and so I think this card slots right in there, and I think it'll be just a powerhouse to that strategy. Uh, I don't really see a lot of value for it outside of those coin flip decks. It's a cool card. Max, full disclosure, Max and I have never played Final Fantasy. So if Edgar King of Figaro is like a key character, or he has cool lore behind this, I have no idea what it is.
Yeah, we probably
I
should have
grew up with
mentioned
an
that.
Xbox.
We probably should have mentioned at the start of the video. Neither of us have played these games. We're gonna butcher the fuck out of these names. Absolutely dunzo. Feel free to tell us how bad we did. I will be trying my best. I will not purposely be messing them up for you, but they're not gonna be great. But talking about this card specifically, I don't think it's he's playing Krarksaka. I think 6 mana is too much. I don't think it's even in the conversation of competing with Zinder Split. Zinder Split is such consistent card draw. Their decks aren't built around artifacts at all to get that initial push out of it. Just getting a free coin flip really isn't what that deck is looking for. A lot of times that deck is fine losing coin flips. The spells are free or they want to lose one of them anyway. Like that's just how the deck is built. Usuri is the deck where this card is absolutely fucking wild. Getting to say I play this card, which the concern with this card is it costs 6 mana, which is going to hinder your ability to cast other spells. But being able to say I have a Usuri, spend 6 mana on Edgar, go to combat, I now have Omniscience and drew 5 cards. That's fucking insane. Like the fact that this just gives you omniscience with your commander is a wild synergy. Like this
Yeah.
that's terrifying. I believe this is like I don't think it's an understatement to say this is now the best card in Usury. I can't think of a better one. I think it's better than Krark's Thumb, even though it's so much more mana. I don't think anything even competes with it. That's the deck where this card is absolutely fucking wildly busted. And the only other spot I can think of this being reasonably playable is honestly as a commander. If you build like a mono blue artifact deck, having something that you are able to just play a bunch of mana rocks and then slam this down and refill your hand seems honestly pretty decent. Or inside of a I forget the name of her. The is it one that draws a card whenever you cast a historic spell?
Joya?
Joyra.
One of
I
the
could see this
is it
being a
one of the
top end
Joyas?
card in Joyra because they play, the Mishra's Bauble and so many things. Having a 6 mana card that comes down and says draw 10, I see that as somewhat reasonable. So I really only see this seeing play in a deck that, like Usuri, which is maximizing the advantage of the coin flip, or a deck that's maximizing the advantage of the first ability on the card draw. I think that those are the two lines you're really going to see out of this one, but I do think this will see some play.
Yeah. I like it. It's kind of a cool card. I wish I knew the lore behind it because it seems interesting, but we'll never know.
We'll never know. I'm not looking it
not
up.
not like we have the most
Fine.
powerful tool in human history to look stuff up. Oh well.
What, Copilot? ChatGPT?
The internet, right?
Yeah, right. Next up, we have Emet-Selch, Unsundered. Let me know if I fucked that up. It is a 1 blue-black, 3 mana, 2/4 Elder Wizard with Vigilance. It has the abilities whenever it attacks or enters, draw a card, then discard a card. So not card advantage, but card filtering. And then it has at the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 14 or more cards in your graveyard, you may transform Emet-Selch. And the transformation half is what makes this card interesting because the back half, Hades, Sorcerer of Eld, I think that's what it says. The art is literally blocking some of the words, is a 6/6 with Vigilance that says Yawgmoth's Will. It is Yawgmoth's Will. On a permanent, during your turn, you may play cards from your graveyard. If a card or token we put into your graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. Exactly Yawgmoth's Will. I'm very torn on how to feel about this one. 14 cards is a lot of cards. It doesn't let you cast anything for free. It does give you access to your entire graveyard, but I think the most complicated part of it is it's not like Breach where you can keep milling cards into your graveyard. Once it flips, it's what your graveyard is, and that's all you got. There's no way to add more cards to it to get more advantage out of it because if a card or token we put into your graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. So it has to be built in some way where you feel supremely confident that exactly when you choose to flip it, you'll be winning the game. I believe, let me double check, it is a May ability. You may transform Emet-Selch. So the fact that it's a May helps because you're not required to flip it if your graveyard isn't set up, because then you actively lock yourself out of flipping it from getting access to your graveyard. But I don't know. It feels like it might be a deck that can snipe some games, but be pretty inconsistent overall. Seems like my initial thought on it.
I mean, how many decks just run Yogswill, right? Like, if you really think about it, how many decks are actually running Yogswill in today's CEDH? It's not super many of them. Um, I don't see it, right? I actually think this card is straight cope. And the reason why I don't, what does ultimately like discarding cards in the graveyard and getting to cast them later really do for the player? Like, you're setting up to do the thing, and the thing is cool, but why? Like, I could just put them in my hand and cast them that way, right? Like, I don't. I guess I'm just not seeing it. Like, his card advantage just isn't enough to justify setting up an entire deck built around being able to Yogswill stuff out. It's not a card you'd even really you build around in CEDH all that much anyway today. So I just don't see it. I don't think he does enough outside of that. I think 14 cards is a lot, but then you have to have the right cards because when, like Max is saying, if you do flip them, well, now you're stuck with what's in the graveyard, and that's what you're playing with the rest of the game.
Yeah.
I I'm struggling to see the value here. Maybe someone better than me is already cooked this list up and realizes it's sick and you can do all these crazy things with it. Um, I'm just not seeing it. I think there's better commanders that are doing graveyard shenanigans.
Yeah, I agree. I think this one is pretty cope, but there seems to be some people really excited about it. The other thing I have that's a big concern with it is it's so telegraphed, right? Like, unless
Yeah.
you're somehow brain freezing yourself on the end step for a shitload of cards and untapping when no one thought it was going to flip, like, sure, there's some sneaky ways to pull it off, but overarchingly, it's like I can see your graveyard. I can see you have more than 14 cards. I know what you're trying to do. I can just remove your commander. You can recast, try again next turn. And then even if you do it, just stop what the line that's visibly in front of all of us. It's all almost entirely revealed information. So I don't think this is a deck that's going to have a lot of success, but it's a really cool concept. And I hope they build something with a similar vibe to it that's a little better in the future.
Yeah. So next up we have Espers the Magicite. So this is an instant 3 and a black. Exile each opponent's graveyard. When you do, you choose up to one target creature card exiled this way. Create a token that's a copy of that card, except it's an artifact and it loses all other card types. So what makes this really, really interesting is it's some graveyard hate. So you take out your opponent's stuff. You can also enable your own stuff with like Mox Opal just by putting it out there and making an artifact. What's also cool is if you're in a token matters deck or a deck that cares about your artifacts, a la Tivit, Marnius, this also helps enable it. So now you have extra artifacts and tokens to either draw cards or to sack to. Oh my God! Please tell me I'm not going to remember the name of it. Blue black. Why? Time Thief. Jesus Christ! I'm going to cut that. Time Thief, and kind of enable your strategy forward from there. Interesting card. I think 3 and a black makes it a little too expensive. I don't think it's going to see a ton of play. I think if it didn't lose all card types, it'd be significantly more interesting than kind of just some
Interesting.
graveyard hate that creates tokens.
I we disagree on this card. I think you're
Okay.
missing two very important things about it. One, this shit's a fucking instant, which is
Yeah.
kind of wild to have instant speed graveyard and reanimation. And the other thing is it loses all of the card types. It does not lose the abilities, right? If I see you with a devoted druid in your graveyard, that's a sick hazels you have in this
Oh,
deck.
I missed that. Yeah, I completely
Oh,
missed that.
you have a seedborn in your yard. You have a ranger captain in your yard. I want it. You have a
Hold up,
Hullbreaker
hold up.
horror. I want it. You have a Valley Flood Caller. That's mine.
Oh, holy shit, dude! This is way hotter. This is Brewmaster on an instant.
But it's only for your opponent's graveyard, so you can't do it for yourself.
Oh, that's true.
I
That's
know. It
lame.
honestly it honestly might be better if it hit yourself. But I think this card is
Oh, a thousand
absolutely
percent.
underrated and actually sick. Like I think this card might see some very real play, and it's a card I want in a control deck. It's not a card I want as like a
Yeah.
generic value piece in some average fucking deck. It is something where I want to be saying, okay, I want to take another access to play away from you. I want to eliminate your graveyard. Right? Like my goal with this is it's graveyard. It's something that's doing a lot for me in one card. It's graveyard hate. It's letting me snipe some crazy lines. It's, letting me fuck over your plans. I think the most common play patterns with it are going to be reanimating a ranger captain. Like I think that's something
Mhm.
that's going to consistently happen with it. And being an instant speed spell makes this really valid, right? Like people play necromancy. a lot of times considering the line of getting an opponent's ranger captain as they sack it. Okay, you sack your ranger captain, I respond with Espers to magicite, I exile your entire graveyard and get a ranger captain and sack it.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like I said, I completely missed when I thought I read loses all other card types and abilities. I added 2 extra words there that aren't actually there. I mean, you can also screw over a TNT player going for their Hazel line and literally exile their own Hazel or their own Devoted Druid, and then now you have infinite green mana just
I
right
would
there
like
on
infinite
the
green
spot.
mana.
Yeah. That's pretty hot, right?
I would like infinite green mana. This is the kind of card I play in a meme bet deck, which I know sounds very counterintuitive to each other. But I love those blue-black strategies that can do weird shit like that.
Yeah. I know it's not very popular anymore, but like the Master would be really cool with something like this, or like what's the other one from that same set? It was the Mothman, like some of those mill strategies that were kind of floating around out there for a minute.
Yeah, anything that's milling your opponents and actively setting up their graveyards for them, this seems
Yeah.
excellent. Like even if you're someone who's still rocking OG Necusar, right? Toss this shit in, right? You're wheeling the
OG
crap out of your
Becky,
opponents.
sorry.
Take away their graveyards. Don't let them have them. Don't give them access to those cards because that's a lot of CDH right now is built around so much recursion. Even if you look at Roggrass, right? I don't care about shit going to the yard. I have Shifting Woodlands, I have Noxious Arrival, I have Eternal Witness,
Yeah.
Kinnons on Colossal Sky Turtle and Endurance and all these things. Every red deck is on Breach. Like people are on so many ways to recur their graveyard. Having instant speed graveyard hate is actually phenomenal. And in this advantage grindy based meta where people are living off their Rhystic Studies and Smothering Tides, being able to hold up an instant speed spell like this seems phenomenal. I think this card is actually legit.
Yeah, I think the 4 mana is the only thing that might hold it back. It's asking a lot to hold up 4 mana.
I'm playing it in an Esper deck.
I mean, I think Esper decks, unless you have Tithe out, right? You're usually pretty pinched for mana. I feel like that is my only worry when I see this card, is I think it's going to end up dead in hand often. Or it's going to be like, do I keep moving forward with my own board? Do I deploy my own game plan? Or do I hold up 4 mana to kind of gotcha somebody? That is the only thing I think about this card is like, it kind of comes off a little bit as a gotcha card. And I wonder if that's just going to end up holding it back.
That's totally fair. I mean, time will tell. It's one that I think is worth testing, especially in a mid-rangey meta. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, 100% agree with that.
Next time, okay. Next up, we have. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try real hard on this one. We have Gerahatia, Scion Reborn. It is white, blue, black, 3 mana, legendary creature, cat, wizard, 2/3, lifelink, has the ability throw wide the gates. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may pay X life, where X is that spell's mana value. If you do, create a 1/1 colorless hero creature token and put X +1/+1 counters on it. Do this only once each turn. If this was not only once each turn, then I could see it being a Marnius card or something. But it is only once each turn. Why is this on the list, Jordan? Why did you put this card in front of me?
Hey, people told me it's a CEDH card, and so I said, okay, cool, add it to the list. You know what? You're the one who could have vetoed it, and you didn't, so now you tangentially agreed it is a CEDH card. Now you have to
Okay,
own it.
sorry. Let me get in the perspective of this is totally a CDH card. Fucking how? All right, so this card, if you're playing Esper Cats, let me tell you, there's never been a better Esper Cat in the history of Magic. Has there been?
Is there any other Esper cats?
I don't know if there's any. Let us know if there's any better Esper Cats than Girachatia.
Yeah, no, I don't know why people think this is a CEDH commander.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, maybe like a sacrifice.
Moving on. Moving on. Tell us about Gogo.
Gogo is sick, dude. This is a mono red. This is like the first mono red clone creature I think that there's ever been. Is that true? That's probably not true. Kikijiki, I guess technically. Okay, there's quite a few actually.
There's actually a ton of mono red clone things.
Yeah, with all like the same style of effect too. No, what makes this guy really cool is he's basically a roaming throne in mono red. So I think those decks that care about roaming throne really going to care about this card. So you can think like decks like Magda and stuff as well. What's also really cool is this is a haste enabler, which I think some people have just kind of missed. But like he gives himself and the creature he copies haste. So if you really, really, really need to get like, I don't know, like Savala, for example. Let's say you have a good Savala and she gets +2 and gains haste till end of turn. That might matter. I think there are some decks that are definitely going to run this card, and I think we'll see it in maybe more than we'd expect, just because he is that roaming throne style effect, which I think is super, super cool. And then on top of that, the haste enabling, which can matter for a lot of different decks. I'd be kind of curious to see like some of the strategies that come out of Gogo. I think it's kind of sick.
I mean, I think when you look at something like Magda's one of the best decks to be able to take advantage of the roaming throne style effect of the card, but very differently the roaming throne. It's not a dwarf, not an artifact, right? So roaming throne they can actively tutor out with their first tutor, which is phenomenal for them.
Yeah.
This isn't something they're able to tutor out. I think you made a really good point with the haste enablement. I actually didn't think about that. This is a Sisay card.
Ooh, good point.
This is
Yeah.
like legitimately a Sisay card. You can
Yeah.
tutor this out with Sisay to give your Bloom Tender haste or give your Selvala haste. Especially if you get a Selvala with this, that's crazy because then you have two Selvalas with haste.
Well, wouldn't. Oh yeah, because he's still Gogo. Oh, that's right. You actually don't have to sacrifice. Oh, that's hot. That's so hot.
This is a Sisay card.
Oh yeah.
That's
How
what
did we
it
miss
is.
that?
I
How
don't
did
know,
we?
dude. This is totally a Sisay card. Fuck everything about the roaming throne. That's what we thought this was going. This is a Sisay card. Yeah, no,
Dude,
this is
yeah,
kind of hot.
double Bloom Tender, double Silva. Oh god, dude, this is nutty.
It's kind of sick. I'm trying to think of what other commander can really take advantage of it. Like, I just don't know. There's
Voja.
actually true.
No, for real, actually, though.
Not even joking, dude. Voja kind of fucks with this. All right, Voja's terrifying with Gogo. I mean, you can take like it has to be a commander that has either a dope ass static or a dope ass triggered ability. It can't be something that's
Yeah.
an act or it can't be something that's an ETB style effect because it won't work
Has
with
to
the
be, yeah,
ETB.
has to be like an attack trigger.
Yeah,
Hold on, let me. I'm just gonna look this up. Like what? Let's see. What actually would care about
but it
this?
also has to play red, right? Like this would be a great Tivit card to some extent.
Could you do like double Timnas with this?
You could do double
I mean,
Timna. So
four
you
mana
could.
is
Oh,
four.
so actually, it could be like a Timna Jessica card where it functions as an additional Timna or like a backup Delny to some extent. Like that exists.
I mean, you could do double Nagilas, I guess. That'd be kind of interesting,
Actually, that's a pretty crazy amount of warriors. I can't even lie.
right?
That is a pretty crazy amount of warriors. Yeah, you get two warriors
Dub.
for every warrior that attacks. That's a little wild.
Uh,
There's some cool
does
stuff you can do
he?
with it.
Yeah, hold on. Does he target creature you control? Except his name is Gogo. Yeah, I mean, you could do like double Malcolm, so you get 4 treasures in like a Malcolm
Yes,
Bile deck
yes, you would get four
or a
treasures in
Malcolm
the Malcolm
Kedis.
Bio deck.
Yes.
You are, Jake. So Gogo's cool. That's that. Gogo's better than we thought he was. Gogo can do a lot of cool things, and I now do expect to see at least some people definitely test and try Gogo and see which slots he's actually good enough for.
Yeah, no, I agree. Way cooler than I expected.
Hermes, Overseer of Elpis, 3 and a blue, legendary creature, Elder Wizard. He's a 2/4. She's a 2/4. One of them, whatever it is. Probably Hermes is probably a guy. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a 1/1 blue bird creature token with flying and vigilance, and whenever you attack with one or more birds, scry 2. This is a token creator. It's, third path iconoclast, monastery mentor. It fits into that same role. The tokens are actually pretty sick because they're all flyers, so there's definitely some synergies you can hit there. Also, all of them being birds mean they're all going to work with Valley Floodcaller. Also, it has a little bit of natural card advantage tacked on. I think this card's probably going to be too expensive for what it does to actually see play, but it's a slightly stronger version of those effects, I think, in terms of the way it synergizes with CDH. So worth testing in a couple of slots potentially, but I'm not sure how I feel about it. I don't think it's busted. I don't think it's crazy strong or anything, but I think it's a slightly better version of previous effects, but being slightly more expensive might just keep it out of the conversation.
Yeah, being 4 mana is rough, but man, is he interesting. Because you think about it like this, right? Especially for like Timna decks, you have evasive attackers that when those attackers attack, they scry to. So then you get to see what you're going to draw into or bottom it, and then you draw your cards. Like, it's kind of sick from that perspective. That's not even getting into like the token synergies of decks like Marnius, that are going to draw a card every time you cast a non-creature spell, which is also pretty sick. But there are better versions of that as well with like Monastery Mentor and some of those other ones. So it's interesting. It's really cool. I wish it was 3 mana. I think if it was 3 mana, because if you remember, there were some T&K lists even that were trying out Loyal Apprentice to get more evasive attackers. And I feel like if that card is even worth testing, then Hermes at 3 mana would have been.
Trying out Loyal Apprentice, that card used to be a staple in Blue Farm in the olden days.
Right, but I saw people after the Dockside bans were trying to bring it back around. Probably still just a little underwhelming with the way CEDH is nowadays. But yeah, I mean, I think at 3 mana, this card would have been very playable. Like, very, very playable, actually.
I'm also curious about some Bant decks that are able to take advantage of, like, Valley Floodcaller plus Enduring Vitality.
Yeah, that was the other thing I was thinking as well, because that's kind of sick as well. I don't know, man. I actually wonder if this is a card worth testing in TNT, like, legitimately. Like, 4 mana is rough. And we don't have a lot of 4 mana slots. But I do have like one slot in the deck right now that I just kind of keep throwing random creatures in there until something feels good. Maybe I try Hermes out. I mean, 3 in blue isn't terrible for a Cradle deck anyway. And there's going to create birds that...
Are you on Diabolic Intent?
Yeah.
Fuck it. Try it.
like he actually has a lot of upside. Like 4 mana is rough, but there is a lot of upside to this card. He does everything else you'd want him to do. The bird tokens are pretty hot. Like I said, the Scry 2 on a Tymna is really cool. I mean, he enables Valley Floodcaller.
The Flying in Vigilance is also really sick because it's like, even without Valley Floodcaller, it's still attack for Tymna and be mana for Enduring Vitality.
Yeah, 1000%. Like, this card is actually really powerful the more I look at it. I think at 3 mana, it's a house, though, right?
Yeah.
And at 4, it's like, ugh.
At 3 mana, I'd put this in Rog's Rest, bro. At 4 mana, I don't think I do, but at 3 mana, I put it in.
Yeah. Chat, I'm going to test this card. I want you guys to know now. Tell me if I'm an idiot. I'll believe you.
You're not.
So don't.
Everything is worth testing. Everything is worth testing. Tell us about Hildibrand.
Yeah, so next up we have Hildibrand Manderville. So interesting card. All the adventure cards are always kind of unique little cards that they throw out there. This one, it's probably a little underwhelming. For the adventure for 3 mana, you create a 2/2 zombie, and then when he dies, you can cast it from your graveyard as an adventure, which is cool. So he basically always comes back around. Very similar to what's the green black one that's in standard? Hedge Knight or something like that.
Mosswood Dread Knight.
Mosswood Knight. Yeah, yeah, something like that. God, I butchered the shit out of that name. Very similar concept though, where he kind of is coming back around his adventures a lot. Has a combo with Ashnod's Altar and Pitiless Plunder, where you have infinite ETB and LTB effects. So if you have a Blood Artist effect, you just win the game on the spot, kind of like we talked about with Celes Rune Knight. Being a zombie deck means you have some synergy with like Gravecrawler strategies, Warren Soul Trader strategy. So it's got some interesting aspects to it. Being black and white makes it a little rough. I don't think that color pairing generally has legs. I'm sorry to all the Lotho players out there. We're talking about your deck not being super great. I'm sorry, but it's true. And I think Hildibrand is probably just worse than most of the other Orzhov decks that are probably out there that are seeing some CEDH play. But it does have a combo, and that makes it somewhat interesting. So I guess I don't know, Max.
A lot of people get excited when cards have combos, and I talk about this. I'm glad you brought up Celes, because it's not just similar in the cards involved in the combo in Celes, it's similar in the idea of what I was talking about, but on the opposite end of the axis. What was powerful about Celes is the fact that it has tons of redundancy for each of the pieces in its 4-card combo. And that's why that's a viable combo, because there's, you could put an 8 of each piece and like just have so many options available to you. With Hildibrand, it requires exactly Ashnod's Altar, exactly Pitiless Plunder, you have options for the blood artist effect, sure, but the point is you need these very specific cards to make it work. It doesn't have any redundancy, and without redundancy, I think this card is absolute booty cheeks garbage. This is not going to see play. I don't know why people are excited about this at all. Like, we got to talk about it because people are like, oh my God, Hildibrand, it's got a new combo with Orzhov and CEDH. I don't give a fuck. This card is trash.
Man, poor Orzhov players. We should
Poor
shit on
Orzhov
you guys.
players.
I'm really
Just
sorry.
give up, bro.
No, don't give up. He's lying. Don't give up. We are appreciated. Maybe not by us, but there's someone out there that appreciates you.
I love Lotho players, and that's it. Lotho players are cool ass people who are just trying to make mana and do busted shit. Outside of Lotho, this is not, bro.
Oh shit! Poor guys, poor people.
Poor,
I'm sorry.
poor Orzhov players. Poor.
One day the light may shine on you, but it is not this day. I'm sorry.
You gotta believe in them.
Okay.
You gotta believe in them. All right, let me.
I don't.
Let me. Let me talk to them. I actually need to put these two cards together. We're gonna have to pull one out of order here. We're going to talk about the adventure lands next. And the ones that we have decided are interesting enough to bring up here are Ishgard, the Holy See, which is the white one, and Lindblum Industrial Regency, the red one. We'll start with Ishgard. Ishgard, the Holy See, as all of the adventure lands do, they have a land side that just enters tapped, adds that mana. They are towns. I don't think they're town land type really means anything yet, but they are technically towns. And then the adventure side on this one is called Faith and Grief. It is a 5-mana sorcery adventure that says return up to 2 target artifact and or enchantment cards from your graveyard to your hand. That is inefficient. That is not good. But being incorporated on a land drop means this one has the potential to see play, because that is a potentially really valuable recursion effect, especially in some lower color, maybe Orzhov style strategies. I could see this being a relevant piece as just like a way to get recursion while eking mana, value out of your mana base, and I think that's valuable. The red one, I think, is a little bit better overall. Lindblum, same land side, enters tapped, adds a red mana. The adventure side, though, is much more efficient. And not much more. It's still inefficient for CDH. It's 2 and a red, 3 mana. It's called Mage Siege. This one is an instant, though, which is a huge upgrade over sorcery. Unbelievably big upgrade in how big the difference between instant and sorcery are. And its adventures is very simple. It just creates a 0/1 black wizard creature token with whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this token deals 1 damage to each opponent. And the reason I want to bring this land up specifically isn't just for spell slinger decks or, as a backup thing you could throw Curiosity on. I think it might see some play in some of those archetypes when you look at decks like Niv Mizzet or Malcolm Kedis or VV, as we'll get to at some point. But I also think this is a totally reasonable land drop to play in something like Ob-Nixilis, where it's a non-creature spell to trigger your other pingers. It gives you another pinger at instant speed on the end step before your turn. And then it also, gives you a land drop in a deck that doesn't run too many lands and sometimes needs to find them. A lot of their mana is produced through rituals and rocks, so it's not that big a deal if you don't hit some land drops. But, the land being tapped is a downside, but the upsides of the adventure side of this one, I do think Lindblum is probably going to be the most played of the various adventure lands.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that. Honestly, I think Jenova's booty cheeks. 5 mana for recursion is just not good, and I don't want to run a tap lane. Or not Jenova, sorry. What was the white one?
Ishgard,
sorry. Looking at the wrong card. Yeah, no, I think it's... I would not play it in any white deck. I'm sorry. I don't like... For one, I don't want to tap land, and I don't want to... Because the whole point of these lands, right? What makes, it good for utility is that I can either play it as the land or I can play it as the adventure. Tap land? If it wasn't tapped, I would agree with you. I
do think they made one mistake in the design of these lands. I think it would have been really cool if it said this land enters tapped unless it enters after being on an adventure.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
I think that would have been a really interesting way to play it, where you get an untapped red source if you cast the instant adventure side first. I think that would make them play a lot better, and it would still be reasonable where you're not just getting this legendary style land with extra abilities for no reason. Like, you do have to cast the spell first to get it untapped. I think that would be super, super cool.
Yeah. I still don't think the white one would see play, though, because 5 mana for recursion of 2 very specific things, if it was open-ended like Savine's, where it's okay, you grab 2 permanents, I think it's a little bit more interesting. honestly, like, how often are your enchantments really going to the graveyard, though, right? Like, unless
It's
they
the
get
artifacts
countered here and
more than the
there.
enchantments for this one. I
Yeah,
think it sees play in almost mono white or Boros decks, specifically in stuff like Oswald or Zerda, as just a way to get back
yeah,
your pieces.
that's fair. Or like an Osgear deck where you're already no, because
Yeah.
then you don't want it. You want it in the graveyard, so you can
Well, for
exile it.
Osgir, you
Yeah,
want it in the graveyard, but for Zerda, right? Like if your Grim and Basalt are gone, cool. You're playing a white tapped land that lets you get them back if you need to, in a deck that makes a ton of mana and a bunch of rocks. Or Oswald, if your combo piece goes to the graveyard, it's a really low opportunity cost way to get it back. I think those are the decks where these actually see some play. I don't think they're
yeah.
great. I don't think they're busted, but I think that they are good enough with a low opportunity cost and those types of strategies to make it worth it.
I think people are going to test it for 30 seconds, realize Tapland sucks, and then they'll be gone forever.
I'm on Mistrise Village.
That's not a real Tapland. It almost never comes in tapped.
Tap
Like even if these came in conditionally untapped, they'd be playable, maybe. But being tapped all the time,
Mm-mm. They're not great, but they're worth bringing up. Tell us about the card that you just named accidentally, which I think
spoiled.
is kind of sick.
Yeah. Yeah. So Jenova, Ancient Calamity. This card I think is really cool. So legendary creature alien at the beginning of combat on your turn, put a number of 1/1 counters equal to Jenova's power on up to one other target creature. That creature becomes a mutant in addition to its other types. Whenever a mutant you control dies during your turn, draw cards equal to its power, and it's a 1/5. So I think it's a really cool card. I love 1/1 strategies. It's like what I always run in casual decks. I don't know why. I just really love 1/1 counter strategies. And black green is really, really good. There's a lot of really powerful synergy out there. You've got cards like Rayhan, of course, that are going to give your cards 1/1s. And so I think this is actually a cool archetype for it. This card could easily slot into like the Mothman deck we talked about earlier, a Rayhan, deck of some kind, Rayhan, whatever color. And I think it would become pretty powerful at that point. You really green black is also cool because it's a deck where you're already wanting to sacrifice creatures anyway. So most of these decks are on the Protean Hulk lines and doing Protean Hulk stuff, and so you're already running a lot of those sacrifice outlets anyway. And so if your commander is also enabling card draw from the command zone, or you're running one of like the aforementioned decks before where it's splashing color and it's in the 99. Most of those decks are still set up to take advantage of 1/1 counters. Like that's the reason those commanders are there. And this card becomes kind of a powerhouse in those decks because now you're taking those 1/1 countered creatures that are really powerful and turning them into efficient card draw for you. So I think this card's really cool. I like it a lot.
Like, I think the slow value playing with it in green black might be a little underwhelming. I think you need to be working towards some kind of combo, which I like that he gets to play very simple, like Chatterstorm, Warren Soul Trader type sacrifice outlets. And I think he gets to enable all of those combos as well, just like by being the right colors for the deck. But I like that you can pair that with something like a Maskwood Nexus, that suddenly you're just drawing your deck at the same time. That's what I'm excited for this commander.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of like the little strategy. I mean, because you're in blue, so you're going to get all the little, or not blue, sorry. He's not blue. You'd have to be splashing blue. I think that's the issue, right? It's just Maskwood, right? Without the the little trick effects that you'd see in the like Malcolm Kennis decks, it becomes a little bit tougher.
There's another one. I think it's called Conspiracy.
Is there any in green black? I thought they're all blue or white.
Conspiracy, MTG. I think it's called Conspiracy. Conspiracy. As Conspiracy comes into play, choose a creature type. Creatures you control and creature cards in your graveyard's hand and library are the chosen type.
Well, how much mana is it?
5.
Well,
Hey. Dark Rit Calling the Weak, Cabal Ritual.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I'm hearing you.
Mana.
You're in green black, right? Like they make mana. For
We
sure.
can make 5 mana. I'm not saying it's good, but I am saying it's cool and it's fun.
I like it.
My biggest qualm with this card, and I think they did it as a safety valve thing, is Jenova itself is not a mutant, it's an alien. And I hate that. Because if Jenova itself was a mutant, you could make infinite mana and sacrifice itself and keep casting it and draw your deck. But they took away that outlet version of it, unless you have Maskwood Nexus or Conspiracy. Then it works.
Yeah, unfortunately. And I think that's why I was saying, like, there's some other decks where it gets a little bit more interesting. Well, like if you put them in like the Master, where the Master is a mutant, like you kind of do some interesting stuff with it. It also sucks because it's also the beginning of combat trigger, not like a ETB or some other trigger that would get it more 1/1 counters. I don't know. That part's a little awkward. That's why I was saying I think it's more like the setup has to be you're setting up more of like, okay, I've got a bunch of the or the Golgari creatures I'm going to do anyway, and now I can turn one of them into a mutant, draw a ton of cards, and then try to set up my Protean Hulk line that I was going to do anyway. I don't know. I think it's interesting. It's
Anything that
probably
can draw a
slow.
bunch of cards is interesting.
Yeah, you're probably right though. It's probably a little on the slower side. Probably too slow for what we'd want to see in a CEDH deck. A good CEDH deck, I should say.
But it's cool.
Hey, and
Which
I'm all about the rule of cool.
perfectly segues us into one of the coolest cards ever printed. The most powerful creature in the history
I just
of
looked on the
Magic.
list too.
The most incredible spiky friend we could ever ask for. A card that I'm not excited for because I think it's that great, but a card that I'm excited for because it's just so fucking sick and it's so goddamn tinny. I love big creatures. And what I love even more than just big creatures is creatures that get plus 9,999/0 when they attack. So the next card is Jumbo Cactuar. And the only deck that this matters in any capacity is that Selvala is fucking eaten with this set, bro. There's some banging mono green cards for Selvala here. And I hope they play Jumbo Cactuar because this card is fucking awesome. They get to just make 10,000 mana. 10,000 mana for no reason. To give you an idea of how much 10,000 is in CDH, it is infinite mana. That is what 10,000 is. I have done the math. If you're wondering how much total mana Kinnan needs for it to do its complete combo, if you need to spin through your whole deck to find Thrasios, and it's in the bottom pile, and then you decide to draw your entire deck with Thrasios when you have like 80-something cards left, and then you want a finale for a bunch to win the game, or whatever you want to do with Kinnan, it's like 450 to 500 mana. This is 10,000 mana. 10,000 mana is just infinite mana. This is an infinite mana combo that's not technically an infinite mana combo, but it's an infinite mana combo. This is fucking sick. And I'm so happy that we get to play this card because it's so fucking cool. I don't think there's much else to say about it. I don't think anything else plays this in CDH. I'm not even sure if Selvala is actually going to run it, but I hope they do.
I mean, I think Selvala runs it, right? Like, why not? It actually, hilariously enough, this deck actually has a ton of combos. Be like just anything where it's like, hey, do damage to your opponents equal to the highest power of your biggest creature. Like Chandra's Ignition, great example. That just wins the game with Jumbo Cactuar.
Yeah. I mean, it wins the game in a billion ways, but the question is, how does it win the game in a way that is actually seen in CDH? No one's playing Chandra's Ignition.
What about like Ultra Dementia?
That's only one player.
You could do like Ruthless Technomancer with it though.
That's hot.
You could do what's the artifact that you use your life total to win the game?
Aetherflux Reservoir?
Aetherflux Reservoir, thank you. Swords your own Jumbo Cactuar?
I mean, we're talking some pretty fucking ridiculous shit here, you know what I mean?
I mean, but those
Yes,
but like legitimately, right? Those are two very playable cards, and then Jumbo Cactuar, you know.
Right, but you're in an Abzan deck running fucking Aetherflux. When is that happening?
I
That's
mean,
a Rakdos Grixis
I'm gonna
card
make
right
it.
there.
I'm gonna make it happen now, just because you said that.
I hope you cook me with that. I look forward to the day. Let us know what you think your craziest, most realistic Jumbo Cactuar combo is in CDH.
This card is hot. I don't care what anyone says.
The card is so sick, dude. The card is so cool.
Yeah, I think this is the card that I've seen people cope with the most. I mean, obviously, I've heard the argument, right? You can take any deck, even Grixis colors, and probably just win, because Grixis is that busted. Kefka is, of course, the newest Grixis commander. I get why people are excited about him. For one, Grixis new commander. So, that's cool. He does have an ETB and an attack trigger, which is, again, cool. Each player discards a card, which is interesting. Because then you also get to draw cards off of him. So, he does have some flicker shenanigans you can do with, let's say, Displacer Kitten. I mean, you're in the right colors to do some of that stuff. So that's cool. I think most people are really excited about his backside, though, right? So when you do have the 8 mana and you make everyone sacrifice a permanent of your choice, then you transform him. And on his backside is it is busted, right? Whenever an opponent loses life during your turn, you draw that many cards. And so that really just allows you to storm off with the right spells in hand. Really at that point, you are a better Niv Visit Visionary, which is really cool because you're just like basically anything they do. So with the right setup and the right cards, let's say like Blood Chief's Ascension, you're just kind of going nuts every time they try to do anything to you. Goes to the graveyard, do they lose 2 life? You're back on it. So I think it's got some really cool stuff going for it from that perspective. The 8 mana is rough. I assume the 8 mana is going to be rough, already being 5 mana in a deck that's more ritual focused, because generally Grixis is a little bit more ritual focused. I think is also a little bit rougher. However, I say this with a big caveat. Wrong Scion has been seeing a lot of play lately, and I wonder, with the amount of mana that sometimes gets enabled, if Kefka could slot into a deck like a Wrong Scion, where he can, be a card they storm off into and then flip to win. I think it's probably too inefficient for what they want to do, but I guess, right? I mean, I already think Wrong Side's pretty crazy deck anyway, so who cares? Throw it in there, see what happens.
Oh, Kefka's so bad. I want to be excited for this card, dude. Like, here's the problem, right? Even when you're talking like flicker, displacer kitten shenanigans, if your opponents run out of cards, you stop like actually drawing a lot of cards. You're just filtering through your hand then. Like, they have to have cards in hand for you to draw more than one card because it's based on the card types discarded. And then, bro, 8 mana at sorcery speed. I will blow this up. I'll just respond. I don't see it. And then even after that, once you've paid 8 mana to flip it, at least it can immediately draw 5 by attacking. That's great. But like it needs to have so many things going for it to work. How are you making your opponents just lose life? In a deck that's built to do this, that's still a Grixis deck. I just don't see the pieces coming together well enough. I don't have faith in this one. It's a super cool card. It's super unique. It's really interesting. I genuinely wish it was better. Like, I would love for a card like this to see genuine play. I just don't think it's going to be good enough, and I hope I'm wrong. But it's expensive, man. And Grixis is colors that scream, I need to be efficient. And this card is just not that in any aspect.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like I said, I think this is the card that I've seen people most excited about that I don't think has real long-term legs. Obviously, not the card most people are excited about. We'll get to Bibby when that time comes. But
whoa! Sneak preview.
Shocker! The most talked about card we're going to talk about.
I've seen it coming.
But yeah, I think he's a cool card. I kind of agree with you. I think if he was a little bit cheaper, his effect was a little bit more interesting from a mana cost perspective. Then he'd see play, but I don't see it.
Next up, we have another Selvala card. We have Lifestream's Blessing. It is 4 green, 6 mana, instant. Very importantly, it is an instant speed effect. Draw X cards where X is the greatest power among creatures you controlled as you cast the spell. If this spell was cast from exile, you gain twice X life. It has a foretell cost. I don't think that's going to actually come up that often, but it's something you could choose to do with it. But very importantly, I mean, one of the ways Selvala gets blown out is when they have one really big creature and they cast a, Brishkar's Expertise or something like that. I think that's the right name of the card. And they just blow up the biggest creature in response, and they end up drawing 2 off of Selvala instead of 7 off of some other creature. Lifestream's Blessing only cares about what the biggest creature was as you cast the spell, so it gets around any removal shenanigans like that. You can also respond to your Phyrexian Dreadnought's ETB trigger, so you can play your Phyrexian Dreadnought for 1 mana, tap Selvala, make 12 green, cast this for 6 mana, instant speed, draw 12 cards, then let your Dreadnought sack. That's an awesome line of play. This is a phenomenal Selvala card. Selvala is absolutely fucking eating this set, and
Yeah.
Sylvan is a local to mine, and they are an incredible Selvala player, and I know they have got to be so happy, so happy to see those cards in this set. This is a really cool one that I think is going to be an underrated card that sees legitimate play in some strategies.
Yeah, no, I think it's cool. I think you hit the nail on the head with this card.
Moving on to our next exciting blue legend.
Yep, we have Matoya, Archon Elder. 2 in a blue legendary creature, human warlock. When you scry or surveil, draw a card. So Really powerful with Thrasios or Thrasio-centric decks. I think that's where it's potentially going to see the most play if it does. Scry's a really powerful ability. Surveil's a really powerful ability. So being able to then scry and then turn around and draw that card, or immediately bounce it out to the graveyard and then draw the card on top, I think it's pretty powerful. So we've seen this on a partner before on the Sphinx that never sees play. So kind of cool to see it on a much cheaper creature.
Elegant is cool, but Elegant is slightly different. Elegant is if you would scry, draw that many cards instead.
Yeah.
What's cool about this one
both.
is it does both. You actually get the scry in addition to the draw. It also, very interestingly, not a mono blue thing, but it works with surveil lands, which I hate surveil lands with a grotesque passion. But if this is somehow like a main part of your strategy and you're utilizing surveil in more ways, or you're a deck that already wants to play a bunch of them and is already a Thrasios deck, like let's say you're on a Tevish Thras deck that really loves surveil lands for some reason because you're on a reanimated version or whatever reason you're playing a bunch of surveil lands, like yeah, being able to eke out additional value from your mana base, fetch a land, draw a card in addition to your Thrasios plan is huge. But I mean, the main thing with this card is Thrasios. Thrasios is at the top of the meta in several different decks right now with Frog Thras, Dog Thras, Timna Thras, Tevish Thras. There's so many Thrasios decks going around, and making it so every single one of your activations is drawing you an additional card. It essentially doubles your game plan for 3 mana if you're on a Thrasios activation based strategy, and I think that's huge. I'm absolutely going to test this in Rog Thras. I'm not sure if it makes the cut, but it's worth testing. Moving on to our next one, we have our. Oh, sorry. Did you have something else you want to say about it?
No, I was going to say probably Rock Thras, Tevish Thras, Dog Thras. I don't think TNT plays it.
Unlikely. TNT has just a few too many good things going on. The deck is a pile of high quality value. This is more for the grindier versions of Thrasios that don't have the high card quality and efficient wins. Next up, though, we have our Esper Prince, and this is one I am relatively excited for. I think this is a very unique card that has a lot of things going for it, and that is Noctis, Prince of Lucius. It is 1 and Esper colors, so 4 mana total, 1 of each in the color pie that's needed there. It's a legendary creature, human noble, 4/3 with lifelink, and it has the ability, you may cast artifact spells from your graveyard by paying 3 life in addition to paying their other costs. If you cast the spell this way, that artifact enters with a finality counter on it. There are some combos with this. I believe Mox Diamond pretty much just goes infinite with it with Aetherflux Reservoir because you never put the finality counter on it because it will just, you don't discard the land, it just goes straight back to the graveyard. Additionally, I think it's if you have a Vexing Bauble or Chalice of the Void type effect, and you start to cast a 0 CMC rock, you can do a very similar loop. So it has the requirements of needing Aether Flux. It's kind of in between the conversations we had with Hildibrand and Celes, where Noctis is required, but Commander's okay to be that. Aether Flux is a very specific piece, and then you have some diversity in the other combo options you have. Some levels of redundancy there where it can be Chalice or Vexing Bauble or some of those other things, and it could be several rocks if it's those things, or just Mox Diamond by itself. So it's not as quite as redundant as Celeste, but it's much more redundant than Hildibrand. And built into an Esper shell, I think this is a reasonable payoff. My biggest issue with it compared to other Esper options is most Esper commanders that end up being really functional in CDH, with the exception of Hashiton, which I'm not a huge believer in Hashiton. I don't think it's that good of a deck. You're looking at Tivit, you're looking at Marnius, you're looking at Malcolm Timna, you're looking at Esper strategies, even Rafine, that can do a lot of card filtering, give you some very real card mana advantage or something of the sort, all built into a much more complete shell by itself, where it doesn't need as many very specific pieces, and a lot of individual things will just work with what they're trying to do or naturally enhance the value as per plan. So I think this one is kind of behind those, but is still unique and able to do some cool things and can absolutely win some games of CDH.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I think it's a pretty cool deck. I wonder if there's like a lore reason he has lifelink. It seems like such a random text staple to him.
Tell us something.
Yeah, he's doing all these artifact stuff, and then it's like, oh, any lifelinks, just sure, cool. But I mean, I'm always excited about an Esper deck that's doing something a little bit different. I think his combo is probably a little too like on the nose, like it's Mox Diamond and then some extra value off the artifacts. I think he's a little underwhelming from that perspective, but I like his art. His art's cool.
He's a cool card. It's one I think some people will definitely try out, but I'm not afraid of if I'm sitting across it from the table.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, so for our next card, we have And I am so sorry for Final Fantasy fans. You're going to have to see some butchering here. Papalymo Totolimo.
Dude,
Woof.
Papalymo totolimo. It's all it
Nope,
is.
I said what I said. I said what I said, damn it. White and a black legendary creature, dwarf wizard. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, he deals 1 damage to each opponent and you gain 1 life. You also have 4 tap. You can sacrifice him, and then each opponent who lost life this turn sacrifice a creature with the greatest power among creatures they control on a 1/2 body. So really cool because as your white black doesn't normally storm off, but you kind of can now, and you're going to be able to do quite a bit of decent damage. I could definitely see Lotho decks playing this to kind of offset the Lotho cost. I think he goes really nicely in decks that are probably splashing blue or maybe even green, because I think he's really cool on like a curiosity style build. So if you have a deck that's running those type of effects already, this is probably a card you just want to slot in, because I think obviously that's a very powerful effect for curiosity. And then also the fact that he has removal on himself as well. So the fact that you can, hit somebody for a life loss and then make them get rid of whatever their biggest creature is. And I think that's pretty cool effect as well. A lot of good things to like about this little dwarf, especially for just being 2 mana. I'm just trying to think of like a deck that like I instantly can think of would immediately slot this in, no questions asked. And Lotho was literally the first thing that came to mind. Can you think of anything, Max, that like you're like, I know this card goes into this deck? Or do you see it as like
I'm not sure if it's
commander?
exactly like slots right into an existing deck and exactly what the deck is trying to do, but I think it makes me really want to build like a pure Esper control deck again,
Okay, yeah.
where it's just like, cool, this is something I can put on the battlefield. It lets me eke out some extra damage to my opponents, and then it's just repeated removal on the stick that I can activate at instant speed. Like 4 mana is a lot, but I mean, in a control strategy, you're holding up that mana, and to be able to just like even end step cast random spell, or like, oh, on the last person before me's turn, I used a counter spell, and now I'm able to make you guys each sack something. It's just like some continuous value grinding is really good, because I watched a video recently with Waffle on another person's channel where he described his comparison of the difference between mid range and control, and I actually really liked it. He said control decks are trying to stop your value engines, and mid range decks are trying to stop your win attempts. And control is kind of trying to do both, but I like the concept of, yeah, you're a little bit more proactive in your interaction with control, of not letting people start to eke out value. So having repeated ways to kind of shut your opponents down and hinder them is so powerful in those types of archetypes. And I love playing control. So this little guy makes me excited. It makes me really want to pull back into Esper control and see what I can do with it.
Would you run him in like a Tivit control deck?
Honestly, it might be like a Malcolm Timna. Like
I
could
can
just be
see
like
that.
Malcolm Timna complete value grind, and then just like don't even worry about having all the little Siren Storm Tamers and stuff like that. Just really focus on pure Esper control, make it chill. Like I wish I could play this in Italian is really what it is, but I can't play it in Italian.
Yeah.
And also really cool to just see an Orzhov dwarf. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Isn't there the one that does dungeon stuff from one of the Dungeons and Dragons sets?
Maybe.
You're like, sure, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Anything else you want to
uh,
say about Papalymo?
no, that's not happening.
I believe in
I
you,
tried.
bro.
I'm sorry,
I
guys.
believe in you.
I'm so sorry. I can't do it. I can't. Uh, no, we're good. Go on to Quinn. See, there's another one. Jesus Christ.
Quina Q Gourmet. No problem, bro. Nailed that one for sure.
Yeah,
Its
whatever.
creature type is Q. I don't fucking know what that is. Tell me what that is somewhere in the comments. What the fuck is a QU? But it's another
Dude,
Peregrine Took type of card. If one or more tokens will be created under your control, those tokens plus a 1/1 green frog creature token are created instead. Oh, this goes infinite with Warren Soul Trader. Sick.
yeah. It's
Oh,
another
that's hot.
Chatterfang
Yeah. That's actually
automaton.
gas. Okay. And it's mono green.
And it makes frogs
Hold up.
relevant.
Wait, Valley Frog. This card's sick. This card's cool. I've never seen this one before. This is my first time ever looking at this. Okay, this is. I like this more than Chatterstorm or Chatterfang. Chatterfang, the issue is that it's green black, so it doesn't fit in a lot of the decks I've ever wanted
and
to put it in. I mean,
And
honestly,
Chatterfang makes amount of squirrels equal to the amount of tokens you made, whereas this is just you make those tokens and then a frog on top of that. So you do make more tokens with Chatterfang versus
sure.
this guy.
What I like about this a lot is that it's mono green. That's really what matters to me. Like the fact that this is a mono green option is huge. Not because like obviously Chatterfang works with Warren Soul Trader, and Warren Soul Trader is the best combo with these effects. But being mono green just means now you have an effect that makes creature tokens on top in more decks, and I think that that's super valuable. I guess we kind of got that recently with the one that got added to Marnius that makes the servos as well.
Yeah, the
That
automaton,
was a really
the
good
stride
inclusion.
or
But
the stride
this thing's
hanger.
sick. This thing is really sick. I'm a fan of this card, and I'm very happy that this exists. This is fucking gas.
I like this card a lot. I actually was
Yeah.
joking about putting it in TNT just because everyone knows I love Valley Flood Caller shenanigans, and I'm like,
Yeah,
this is just another way
frogs.
to do it.
Yeah, frogs
Every
is
time I make it,
huge.
yeah, like I play Smothering Tithe, and then I play this guy. Now I make a treasure and a frog, and then a treasure and then a frog, and then I go infinite with Cradle. Why not, right? Who cares?
Please tell me in the comments what the fuck a Q is.
Dude, we didn't even talk about the fact that one of them was an alien. Like, when were there aliens in this game?
Now there is.
I guess. Yeah, I guess so.
I just talked about the fact
Well,
that I was mad he wasn't a mutant. All
yeah,
right, tell me about
I
this
thought Final.
garbage ass card you put next, bro. What the fuck is this?
Hey! Don't talk shit about my cards.
I'm talking shit about this one, bro. What is this?
I did Quina. So I get a pass on whatever nonsense is
Kina
next.
was
I don't
cool.
even remember.
Kina I fuck with. That was when I hadn't seen. That was cool.
Oh, okay. To be fair, I want to preface this for the audience. I put this in there because I saw people talking about it. Not that I necessarily believed in it. I want to be very clear about this.
Why are
So
you
this
lying?
is sin,
You actively told me you
spirits,
thought this was the
punishment.
best staple of the entire set, and that's going to
No,
be
I
put
did not say that.
everywhere.
This is nonsense. This is lies. We're cutting this. If this isn't cut, then somebody hijacked my editing process. That's all I'm going to say. So this was 7 man. Three, I don't know what I was thinking. Okay. I don't know why it's on the list. It's 4 colorless and Sultai. And because it was Sultai, I was like, sure, somebody's going to want to play a giant Leviathan in Sultai because that's what people do. If the stupid Simic crocodile thing can get played, then surely somebody's going to play this guy. That's all I was saying. He's flying. Whenever he enters or attacks, which is relevant, right? There is an enter ability here. Exile a permanent card from your graveyard at random. Oh man, at random. I missed that text when I was reading this too. Well, if this gets worse and worse, they create a
Yeah.
tap token that's a copy of that card. If an exile card is a land card, repeat this process. So if it's a land, you get more lands. So that's something they tap. But the
Wow.
beggars can't be choosers for 7.
Wow.
At random. Why? He's 7 mana. You can't even choose? This is ridiculous.
Can we move on?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna laugh. No, you know what? Just for this, I'm gonna build him. I'm gonna win a CEDH event with this stupid card.
You're not going to
Out
cast
of,
him. You're just going to culling ritual or something, and then you're going to win some other way. You're not casting
I
him.
don't, I don't care. It still counts.
Okay, sure, brother. Next up, we have an actually interesting, potentially playable card named Squall. C-D. I don't know why the D is hard. Mercenary. It has a capital D at the end of seed. I don't understand why. Tell us why in the comments below. How the fuck this is spelled this way? It is a 2 in Orzhov, 4 mana, legendary creature, human knight mercenary, 3 floor with an ability that they called Rough Divide. Whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gains double strike until end of turn. That can be cool. I think, again, some Esper decks, something like Malcolm, getting double strikes kind of hot. But then I actually think it's better in Mardu or, some decks that can have Underworld Breach because the next ability is whenever Squall deals common damage to a player, return target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Get back Heuristic Study, get back an Underworld Breach, get back a Ranger Captain. There's some cool shit you can do with this. What I really like about it is Ranger Captain specifically, there's no finality counter or some way that it exiles itself here. You can keep getting that permanent back as much as you want. So I think it's really sweet with Ranger Captain. To some extent, I've heard some people say they think this might be a blue farm card. I think that might be a stretch, seeing as it's 4 mana, and I think worse than something like Rev most of the time in generic value. But, another way to get back Breach is always really cool. So it's a cool card. It's solid enough to see some testing and see where it works out. It's one that I don't have the highest hopes for overall, but I think Squall is definitely going to see some testing and play.
This card sucks. It's not going to see play. For
Moving
four mana,
on.
for 4 mana, like in all seriousness, for 4 mana, I don't think it's quite good enough. I think it's interesting, and of course, like you can do some cute stuff with like Ranger Captain, but you have to basically have cards that you're going to be constantly losing and then bringing back over and over again. Without this, I think honestly, where it might see the most interesting plays, it's just going to make sure your Bowmaster, even when he gets hit, comes back and just hits again.
I was going to say
That
Rafine.
might be,
It's kind of cool.
that could be relevant.
Maybe in like Rafine.
Yeah, but I mean, 4 mana and it's an attack trigger. Well, it's a combat damage trigger even. So I don't know. That's a little rough.
Well, Jordan, I have good news for you. The next card that you get to talk about is, I think, the
Ooh, I
most
get
played
this one.
card from the set.
Probably. Right? I mean, is there any reason not to run this card
There's some,
for most
but
decks?
let me hear your opinions about it.
Yeah, so next up we have Starting Town. So this is the new land town. It enters tapped unless it's your first, second, or third turn of the game. You can tap, add a colorless, or tap, pay 1 life, add 1 mana of any color. So it's basically a conditional mana confluence. What's really cool about this card is that most CEDH games are not going past turn 3. That's probably not true. We always joke about that.
Currently, it's
But-
mid-range hell. They do go long.
But usually when you're playing CDH, the first 3 turns are generally your most important. These are the turns where you're trying to set up your mana, you're trying to get it up properly, you're trying to make sure you have the right colors as well, and that you've ensured that the right strategy that you're developing going into the mid game is actually going to work. Because there's nothing worse than developing an early strategy, getting to your mid game, drawing the cards that you need to win, and you're color screwed. It happens all the time, especially in those 4 or 5 color decks. I would play this card in TNT. I like having colored mana on a land. It's very rare that you see these. We get Command Tower, City of Brass, Mana Confluence, technically Exotic Orchard. Some people play Spire in like TNK.
Forbidden
Spire of
Orchard.
Industry, that is. What was that?
Forbidden Orchard.
Nah, no one's playing Forbidden Orchard in this meta. If you are, I'm sorry. You shouldn't. I don't know why anyone would in a guy's
Not a
heavy
not a
right
good
now.
Forbidden Orchard meta right now.
Yeah, terrible. Yeah. Anyway, I think this card is really good. I think it will see play. I understand that like conditional tap lands aren't always the greatest. That's why some people don't play, certain lands that are out there. And that's one of the criticisms of the surveil lands is they come in tapped, but you can fetch those out, and that's how you kind of get around that. So this card is going to be rough, obviously from turns 3 on. But honestly, just smoothing over those first early turns, I think it's worth it. Personally, I do. I don't know how you do. How do you feel about it, Max?
I don't think it's a pure staple. I think that that's a bit of a stretch, but I think it absolutely sees play in proactive decks, right? If you're Dihada, if you're Rogsai, if you're Mardu, fucking anything, any deck that's like, I can reasonably try and win the game by turn 3 pretty consistently, and that's what I'm attempting to do. I think this is a slam dunk home run.
I think if you're 4 color and above, I think it's going in the deck. I do believe. I think it's a staple in any 4 color and above because you're already so
Time will
choked
tell.
for mana fixing lands anyway, right? Like it just hurts so bad.
Yeah, I mean, time will really tell on those. Like, is it? I think the big test will be: is it a TNK card? If TNK ends up playing this, then I think it's more of a staple than I initially thought it was going to be. If TNK doesn't play this, then I think it's about where I expected it.
That's probably fair. I'd be surprised if TNK doesn't play it though. They are a quicker proactive deck. I think they would want the Rainbow Land, but we'll see.
Time will tell.
Yeah.
Moving on, this one's going to be pretty quick to talk about. It goes in one deck and one deck only, and the card is summon. Fuck, your thing is spelled-
Bahamut.
Summon Bahamut. Bahamut, I'm going to guess for on this one.
Bahamut.
It sees play in exactly Magda. That's it.
Yeah.
It is a dragon that is a saga, and the ETB blows up an online permanent. There's not much more to say about it. They can tutor out a pretty much unconditional removal spell for anything, and it comes on a 9/9 flyer. That's pretty fucking sick. Yeah, it destroys up to one non-land permanent when it ETBs immediately if they tutor out with Magda. And then if you get to your next upkeep, you get to blow up another non-land permanent of your choice. If you make it a turn after that, you're also drawing a couple cards. And then the last trigger is going to do a bunch of damage to other permanents, however you choose to see fit. The game's probably not going that long. Realistically, you're going to blow up one to two things with this. Occasionally, you might draw a couple of cards, but it's a tutorable removal spell for Magda, and I don't think there's much else to say about it.
Yeah, it replaces Spine. I think that's it, right? Like that's all it does.
It's a one deck card.
Yeah. Up next, though, is a card that could see play in a lot of different decks, and that is Suplex. 1 in a red. Sorcery. Choose 1. It deals 3 damage to target creature. If that creature would die this turn, exile it instead, or you can exile a target artifact. Basically, a somewhat better Abrade, and in some ways, somewhat worse Abrade. So you lose out on the instant speed, but you gain the ability to exile. So, beggars can't be choosers, but it hits Wondering, and that is going to be pretty relevant.
Yeah, being able to exile the One Ring is huge. Obviously, a huge thing in the format. It's played a ton right now. A lot of games are going long. People love their One Rings. It's a better card than a Braid in its effect. Its effects are blatantly, no question asked, better than a Braid. Instant versus sorcery is still a massive difference, though, for CDH, and that's going to be the real sticking point that I think is going to hinder it from seeing consistent play. If you're in a One Ring heavy meta, I think this card goes up a little bit, and you're like personal meta. I'm not sure if I would generically run this in a tournament right now, but if everyone's slamming One Rings at your local game store, I think that this is definitely worth considering in your red deck.
I'd play it, and the amount of Rogfast I see, I'd probably play it because that is a deck that tries to abuse the One Ring pretty good in a lot of games.
That's fair. Kinnan as well.
Yeah, I don't really see as much Kinnan anymore, surprisingly.
I might be bringing it back, bro. I'm missing it. I miss the baby boy. Next card we're going to talk about today is Tataru Taru. Tataru Taru. It is a 1 and a white, 2 mana, 0/3 legendary creature dwarf advisor. When it enters, you draw a card and target opponent may draw a card. Then it has Scion Secretary. Whenever an opponent draws a card, if it isn't that player's turn, create a tapped treasure token. This ability triggers only once each turn. It is Smothering Tithe at home. It is just a really bad version of Smothering Tithe. That's pretty much it. But it's more efficient, and it gives you it on a creature body. Unfortunately, not a good creature body, but it is a cheap, efficient mana producer in CDH that also replaces itself on ETB, which means I think it'll see some play. It's not a great card, but it's a card that scratches the surface of good enough for now.
Yeah, I think it'll definitely see play in Marnius decks, definitely see play in Tibet decks. I don't think it sees play in like TNT or TNK. I'd be a little surprised. I think you're right. Like, it's just not quite good enough. If the treasures came in untapped, maybe. But I think otherwise, I'm a little wary of it. I don't like tapped treasures. I don't like resources I can't use right away. That's just a little rough sometimes.
Yeah, it feels like your opponents always have a blind up against with this one. Some decks are going to try it, though. Some people are so hamstrung for mana advantage right now.
That's true. That's very true.
Moving on, our next card is Traveling Chocobo, a card that Wizards is obviously pretty excited about because it's the only serialized card in the set, and they made a bunch of different colored versions for it. I don't think it's actually that good, but I think it sees play in a couple specific strategies. So specifically what the card does, it is a 2 and a green, so 3 mana, 3/2, bird, not legendary or anything, and it has 3 abilities. It says you may look at the top card of your library at any time. It says you may play lands and cast bird spells from the top of your library. And then most importantly, it says if a land or bird you control entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. If it wasn't just entering, if it was any triggered ability of a bird, I think this would see snap play into Revi, which would be really, really cool. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite do that. So I think the decks that are able to utilize this most effectively is going to be the rare Aesi and Tityoba deck. I think this is just an instant staple for where it just doubles your card draw. And that's really the only thing I see it doing in CDH. Like, sure, it can double up your Talon Gates or some other weird land ETB effects that exist, but I guess it doubles Surveils, which is kind of cute, but I think it's really just going to be another roaming throne for Tityoba and AC. I don't think Lumra gets enough out of it to really matter, so I think it's just those 2 decks. Anything else you can think of?
No, I think some Derevi players will try it and probably be underwhelmed by it.
Yeah, I mean, only working on the ETB and not the attack ones, I think just cuts it out of being realistic.
Yeah. I mean, Notably, it does make your Derevi trigger twice on ETB, which
Only
is
on ETB.
interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's underwhelming. Yeah.
Underwhelming, but phenomenal in AC and Tatyoga. Tell us about the card that's going to
All right.
fuck my cradle up.
Up next, we have Ultima, Origin of Oblivion. Legendary creature god for 5 colorless mana. He's got flying. Whenever he attacks, you put a blight counter on target land. For as long as that land has a blight counter on it, it loses all land types and abilities and has tap add colorless. And then whenever you tap a land for colorless, add an additional colorless. Obviously, anybody who's still running Eldrazi in the year of our Lord 2025 for CEDH, this is an instant staple.
Yep.
I don't know why you would be, but you would. You could. Ultima himself, of course, could be a really strong colorless commander if you are deciding to go down that road. Please don't. But if you decide to go colorless, it's there. I think some decks will probably test this out in the slot of like Wandering Archaic. Like this is obviously a huge step down, but like that colorless slot of, hey, it's a lot of mana, but it also has a really powerful effect on it. I think if it was an ETB, this card would be a significantly more interesting. The attack trigger is a little underwhelming because that gives somebody an entire turn to kind of prep for it and get rid of it before you can wipe out like a Cradle or a Mistrized Village. I think the one interesting aspect to it, though, is lands are getting more and more powerful. I think every set now, Wizards is printing more and more powerful lands. We just saw it with Mistrized Village, of course, coming out. Shifting Woodlands, in previous sets, Guy's Cradle strategies are on the come up. So I think some people are probably going to test it just to try and take a stab at those strategies. But I think that's a little underwhelming. I think if it was ETB or a cash trigger, which usually these colorless cards are, it would probably see more play.
Yeah, should absolutely be an ETB. I think realistically the only place the card sees play is in colorless decks. Like if you are running Zuladoc or Liberator, any of those types of cards, I think this is an auto staple in your deck. Not just because it's land hate. I think the fact that it is also a mana doubler essentially is huge, right? Being able to double the mana from all your colorless lands is a phenomenal thing in a colorless deck because on average your cards are pretty expensive. So being really, really powerful mana acceleration when you have the mana base to support that, I think is the reason to play the card. And then the hate is a bonus on top of it, where I don't think decks can just naturally play this over something like Wandering Archaic saying, oh, it can hit a Cradle with Suspend 1. I don't think that's quite good enough. But as a mana accelerant, it's really, really powerful.
I agree. I think he's really just going to see play as his own commander. But again, colorless strategies, just ugh.
They're better than you think they are, bro. I have a lot of games against that shit. They can do some fun stuff.
I know they can. They also have a lot of games where they just sit there and don't interact and don't do anything.
Fair. That's fair. Well, fortunately, the next card we get to talk about is
I know you get the fun one. What the fuck?
easily
Bullshit.
the best commander.
You rigged
from
this from the
entire
start.
set. Yeah, bro. I absolutely rigged it. Would you like to talk about it? I'll give it up for you if you want.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
It's your turn. Whatever.
Absolutely the most played commander from the set. One of the best cards overall from the set that I think will also see play in some 99s. I'm going to butcher the fuck out of this name. We have Vivi Ornitier. Vivi Ornitier is what I'm going to go with here. It is a 1 blue red 3 mana 0/3 legendary creature wizard that has an activated ability with a cost of 0 that is an instant speed ability that can only be activated during your turn. So similar to Wishclaw text, it's instant speed at any time, only on your turn. Add X mana in any combination of blue and or red, where X is Vivi's power, and then the Wishclaw part of it. And remember, it starts as a 0/3, so you do have to gain power on it, but it also does that itself with its second ability, which is whenever you cast it on creature spell, put a 1/1 counter on Vivi, and it deals 1 damage to each opponent. This gives it so many reasonable pathways. It's a ridiculous mana accelerant where you can just use it at the end of casting a bunch of spells in your turn to essentially refresh your mana pool. It is also absolutely busted with curiosity effects, as we talked with other cards, just being damage to each of your opponents on every single spell you cast. VV is legitimately very, very good. I have played against this deck one time. It won the game. It did it in a cool way. Additionally, I cloned it and was immediately able to make like 7 extra mana on my Rogdrash turn for like no fucking reason. The card is legitimately very powerful. It does everything you want to do except be card advantage. The only way that it is card advantage is when you pair it with those curiosity effects, which if you are able to assemble those, it is absolutely busted card advantage. But the mana advantage is the real thing here. And if you are going to be a commander in the CDH format, the best two things you can be are card and mana advantage. And this is very good on the axis of mana. So you just need to make sure you can supplement those cards. And I expect to see Vivi as a commander in the 99. It's not something I'm ready to say, oh, it's top tier, it's in the tier 0, tier 1 conversation. It's something that has the potential to get near there, and I think it is definitely a powerful, very playable commander in CDH, and you should be seeing it at tournaments near you soon.
Yeah, like I said at the beginning of this show, one of my favorite commanders of all time was Niv Mizzet. And while Niv himself, the Perun version, is not able to be, I think, played still, this card does allow you to play Nivs, both Nivs, really, in the 99, and gives you an extremely powerful effect. And because Vivi's so easy to kind of abuse that mana and then immediately, cast that Niv, I'm really excited about this card. And I plan on building this deck because I can bring my Nivs back from the dead. I'm super fucking excited about this deck. Like, I think you can build it in a lot of different ways, actually. Like, there's some control shells I've seen out there that I'm really excited to do. I think the deck is super, super neat. You kind of touched on all the key points about it, but I don't think I've been this excited about a new commander in quite some time. Certainly not in the last 4 or 5 sets that I can think of.
Yeah, Vivi's sick. It's not quite a Nadu, but it's sick. It's a cool card.
Yeah, I'd agree. Next up, we have Yuffie, Materia Hunter. 2 in a red, legendary creature, human ninja. Ninjutsu, 1 in a red. And then when she enters, you gain control of target non-creature artifact for as long as you control her. Then you may attach an equipment you control to her on a 3/3 body. Really, Max and I talked about this one right before the podcast, and her biggest ability is the actually steal One Rings. It's not just One Rings, but that's like where you'd probably see her really see play. Because 1 in a red, like that's pretty efficient for a 3/3 anyway. Also you can steal Soul Rings. Like, she's actually got some pretty good utility on her, but it's really all about that stealing artifacts. I don't think the equipment's ever going to be overly relevant.
No.
Maybe in like some random decks, but
No.
there's people who are playing like Thada Adele, so you know that the steal artifact strategy is strong or was strong, and I expect it to still be strong with Yuffie as well.
Yeah, I don't think Yuffie's
the one downside is you have to hold her.
Yeah, I think Yuffie is, again, it's more of a specific meta choice. The same way we talked about on Suplex, how, if you're in a specifically one ring heavy meta at your game store and this is a way to exile it, Yuffie is the other side of that, where instead of exiling it, you can just steal it. And you can steal it in a really hard to deal with way. They will eventually try and blow up your Yuffie to get it back, but not the end of the world. At least you're going to get a one ring out of the deal, which is a pretty good option. So that's really the main point of the card. If you're in a one ring heavy meta, think about including her if you have the creature package to support the ninjutsu especially, but she's also only 1 more mana if you don't ninjutsu her, which also isn't terrible. So I'm not sure if Yuffie's actually that great, but she's a card I could see seeing some play in some decks sometimes.
I like the fact she's a 3/3. If she was like a 1/1 or like a 2/1 or even a 3/1, no. But being a 3/3, on a 2 mana, because you're almost always getting the 2 mana part, I think it makes it a lot more interesting.
Agreed. That we're talking about, my God. Well, no, you got you. I still don't see what you see in this card. You still need to tell me this combo to make it worth it. But the last card we are talking about in this video is Yuna, Grand Summoner. It is 1 green, white, blue, 1 in a bant, 4 mana. It is a 1/5 legendary creature, human cleric, with 2 abilities. One of them is Grand Summon, which is tap, add 1 mana of any color. When you cast a creature spell this turn, that creature, or when you next cast a creature spell this turn, that creature enters with 2 additional 1/1 counters on it. So it's a 4 mana rainbow birds of paradise. It does not require you to use that mana on a creature, to be clear. It is not that mana can only be spent on creatures. You can use it on anything, but the next time you cast a creature, it enters with 1/1 counters on it. Then its second ability is whenever another permanent you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, if it had 1 or more 1/1 counters on it, you may put that many 1/1 counters on target creature. 1 or more counters on it. So if it has other types of counters, it will put additional 1/1 counters on another target creature as well. What is the combo with this, Jordan?
All right, so the combo, for the audience who are wondering, is freed from the real and Penman's Aura. So the way this works, you stick the enchantment on it, you tap her, make the blue mana, untap her, retap her again. Do this infinite amount of times. The next creature you cast
Walking Ballista
will have infinite 1/1 counters on it.
So you just make an infinitely powered Walking Ballista.
Yeah, basically. Or
Okay.
an infinitely powered Polywog.
I don't know if
You
that's
can do
good
some.
enough. It's cute. It's cute, sure. That's a lot, man. Again, that's card with two, like one of two specific cards into one other very specific card. Maybe there's more redundancy for the outlet creature I'm not thinking of, but that seems like just a walking ballista thing, really.
Yeah, it's there's probably a few different ones. I haven't looked to see like all the different ones there are. The good thing is because you're in Bant, you actually have a lot of creatures that also can just receive the freed from the reel, and help you make infinite mana that way. So
That's
you know
true.
you've got.
Bloom
I think
Tender,
the issue is the
Faber Elder, you get
yeah
the enchantment one, Sanctum Weaver. Like, sure, you could go very heavy on the freed. Okay, that's actually fair. That's actually reasonable.
yeah. Plus you can run Heliod in the 99. You can run Savala. Like there's some stuff. Like I'm not saying it's great. I just it does have an infinite combo in the command zone, and you always got to pay attention to decks that can do that. Um, I'll be curious to see if there's other creatures like there's probably something we need to look up, but like other creatures where you can really abuse that infinite 1/1 counter thing, because I think that could be really interesting in the right
Esper
cards and
Sentinel.
in the right deck. Infinitely large Esper Sentinel. I mean, it's kind of hot, right?
Just make your Esper Sentinel and as a whole, bro.
I mean, like I imagine, I mean, again, like this is like a 4 card combo, so it's not the greatest, but like infinitely large Savala, and then you can cast a staff, but then of course she's not hasted, so it's a little bit of rough. There's probably more efficient ways to do this, but infinite 1/1 counters on a creature, kind of
Not
hot from
bad.
the command zone.
Not bad. And that brings us to the end of our initial. We're still not done with spoiler season, but there were so many cards about to talk about. Final Fantasy card review for CDH video. Any
Chat, quick
last
question:
things? Yeah,
were there more Final Fantasy cards or games? I'll leave that up to you to
I
decide.
could. How? I think there's like a crazy number of games, right? Like it's something. It's
So
something
it's over
wild.
100.
Was over a
TK,
hundred.
T, TK told me there was over 100 Final Fantasy games, but only oh my god, like 20 something mainline games or main story games.
Okay.
I don't even know what that means. Like,
I
what are the
don't know what
other
that means.
100?
I still don't even know what systems this game was played on, but it's a really cool set. I think it has to be the largest set they've ever printed of all time. They obviously put a shitload of work into it, and I heard it was originally supposed to be a straight to modern set, so the power levels are definitely high for what is a standard legal set, which is really cool. It means that we have more cards to talk about that might see play in this format, and I mean we have some bangers, right? Like VV is a clear cut one. There's other cards that are obviously auto staples in specific decks. Some of them more fringe decks, which honestly I appreciate when it's clear cut staples for more fringe strategies, right? I'd rather that Usefree gets the best card in its deck than Blue Farm gets another staple, is kind of the way I think about it. So I think that that's a really cool, little boost for the format where some of those fringe strategies get some really busted cards that work really well for them. And then we do have some cards that are absolutely worth testing, and some of them are going to overperform, some of them are going to underperform. Who knows where Starting Town is going to end up, but overall, I think it's a really cool set, and I am super excited to play some of these cards.
Yeah, I think this is one of the first times where we came out of a set saying, look at all these cool CEDH cards, and not a single one of them, other than maybe Starting Town, is going to see play in T and K,
Fuck
which is
yeah.
interesting.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the end. Thank you so much for listening to the Colors of Crutch podcast. My name is Max Sternberg, also known as Wounded Satellite, and I'm joined by my incredible co-host, Jordan Drake, aka Steel Dragon, aka the Boil2 winner, which I'm going to say until he gets really mad about it.
Oh, I hate it so much. I
Additionally,
hate
we
it so
have
much.
we have restarted the Patreon. You can support us there if you're so inclined. We really appreciate everything you give. Additionally, we are back on the Discord, so feel free to join our Discord, Colors Are Crutch. Links to all of those things are going to be down in the description below. Yeah, feel free to tell us how we fucked up all the names. Feel free to tell us all the cards we missed, what your favorite cards from the set are, which ones you're excited to test and try out, in what strategies you want to do those, and tell us all about Final Fantasy, because I just don't know anything about this, bro, but I hope to learn.
I've learned a lot more in the last week from TK than I'd ever known in the 30 years prior. So
That's fair. You guys have a wonderful rest of your night, and we'll see you next time.
thanks, everyone.